Matos is from Brazil, and she is an advocate for women's rights. She's interested in the study of feminist epistemology, has a bachelor's degree in law, graduated in tax law, and is currently an undergraduate student in history. She's going to talk about the topic, the end of statistics, Brazilian elections and women's rights. So thank you so much, and lovely to meet you here, Matos, and over to you.
A timeline that I made for you to get to know a little bit about the history of Brazil for those who don't know. Brazil is a country with a history of massacre the native people by Portuguese crown, and with a history of 300 years of slavery, very similar to all countries in the continent called America, but also the last country to freedom the people slavery. So after all these centuries of absence of democracy and human rights, women could only be considered equal to men, in other words, a full human being, at the end of the 80s of the 20th century. Another important event was the process of impeachment that our first female president suffered in 2016. As you can imagine, our presence in politics is so reduced that she could be elected only because her predecessor supported her for the position and couldn't run for election anymore. Also, he left the government with 90% of approval. But soon, her opponents invented a way to remove her from power. After, of course, suffering several misogynistic attacks, including by the media, which propagated that she did not have the skills and the behavior to be a president. So my two main concerns in this research, when I began to study this issue of gender ideology in Brazil, was how quickly it spread and the way in which women are being prevented from discussing their own materiality. First, the taking of women's space, and secondly, the symbolic representation of these trans-identifying males on the mainstream media and in the social media. They are always on the news only because of their condition or way of life being on top rankings, while are so many qualified and competent women. As you can see, although women are the electoral majority in Brazil, the numbers of women entering public and political life remain low. In 2020, Brazilians' election, women who represent more than 51.8% of the population and more than 52% of Brazilians' electorate are still a minority in politics. That year, 12.1% were elected to a mayoral post, compared with 87.9% of men. As for the municipal legislative chambers, women represented only 16% of elected to the position of councillor. After 2009, this law intended to equalize political participation by reserving 30% of political parties' vacancies for women. Other proposals have dragged on over the years without definitive approval. However, changing sex in the civil registry and the social name policy make it possible for any man to claim the seats reserved in political parties exclusively for women. This is because Brazil's Superior Electoral Court has determined that under the pretext of respecting individuality and the principle of human dignity, a candidate's social name can be included in the electoral candidacy of trans-identifying people. And the Federal Supreme Court recognizes the right of trans-identifying people to change their first name and sex directly in the civil registry, regardless of gender reassignment surgery, or hormonal treatments. According to official statistical data available on the Supreme Electoral Court website, 171 people applied with a social name. Of these, 11 were considered unfit to stand. 82.5% self-identified as a woman, while 17.5% self-identified as a man. So are you noticing the reverse effect of the percentages? This is a fact to reflect on. And this trans-identifying male below on the slide were elected. However, other trans-identifying male do not appear in the table of people elected with a social name made available by the court. This means that they are outside the official Brazilian government statistics on elected trans-identifying people. This Brazilian National Association of Transvestites and Transsexuals states that in 2020, the country achieved a record of 275% increase in trans-identifying people elected, compared with 2016, the highest number in the country's history. In 30 trans-identifying candidates were elected, all to the positions of councillor. Of these 30, 28 are trans-identifying males, and only 2 are trans-identifying women. Women who self-identify as a man are the smallest part of these statistics. This absence of official statistic about who are these people who are changing their names, their sex, and after all, this gender ideology, which we are prohibited to ask someone's birth sex, is about to usurp public policies aimed at women, who are historically hindered from entering careers in politics by several factors, particularly the sexual oppression suffered in childhood throughout their lives. In this slide, I bring one of these trans-identifying males who are outside the official Brazilian government statistics. This is Benny Brioli from the Socialism and Liberty Party, a transvestite who is the first and recorded as the only woman elected in the city of Niterói in 2020. In this news, we read, the city of Niterói celebrates female equality and combats violence against women, with the photo of this trans considered the only woman elected to the council. I show you another case. Another one is Lins Robalo from the Workers' Party, was the first trans-identifying male and recorded as the only woman elected in the city of São Borja, also outside the statistics of social name and elected as a woman. Finally, 2 other cases that call us attention. Duda Salaber from the Democratic Labour Party was the most voted for man and person in the history of the city of Belo Horizonte, which is a big city in Brazil. And this year, 2023, was recognized as one of the 100 personalities in the world capable of transforming the next generation of leaders by Time magazine. And the second is known as Erica Hilton, a trans-identifying male from the Socialism and Liberty Party, who now figures in the 2022 BBC's list of 100 most influential women, was elected to the City Council of São Paulo, the largest and the most important city in Brazil, and holds the title of most voted for women, in both the council and the country. And my question to you is, are they getting the most votes because they are trans or because they are representing women? And finally, I bring some points and questions for everyone to reflect on, which are allowing trans-identifying males to be recognized as women gives society the false idea that females occupy the positions of the most voted for people in the country, when this is the purest untruth. In 2022, the official data points to a 373.83% growth in candidates with a social name since the 2018 elections. More than 37,000 people choose to be identified by their social name. And the questions that remain unanswered are, how many of these people will benefit from the reservations of places for female-only applications? And how many women will be left out once again from electoral positions? And that would be all. Thank you.